You didn't get it. Okay. Have you ever had a parent overreact? How many say they have seen one of their parents overreact? All right. Let me ask you this. Was it a negative thing when they overreacted? How many of you ever saw your parent overreact in a positive? There's a hand. Awesome. Yeah? If you didn't see it, Mike leaned over and told Rachel to raise her hand. So, I want to talk about overreactions. If you have your Bibles, let's go to Luke 21. We're going to be in a lot of scripture today. If you're taking notes, it'd be a good idea. Write these things down. More important to write them down and go back to them than it is to catch them at the moment. But it's also just good on your brain and your heart to see the actual words. So Luke 21, we're going to start with verse 1. This is Jesus, and he's watching the people putting their offerings, and it says, "And he, Jesus, looked up and saw the rich putting their gifts into the treasury. And he saw a certain poor widow putting in 2 small copper coins. And he said, 'Truly I say to you, this poor widow put in more than all of them. For they all, out of their surplus, put into the offering. But she, out of her poverty, put in all that she had to live on.'" Now, literally that last part says she put in the living that she had. The living that she had. I have a widow's copper coin here. I mean, they call it a widow's mite. It says it's 40 BC coin. It's wore down. You can still see some emblems on it. It's actually not out of copper. It's they say out of bronze. So right here isn't that kind of awesome to think this coin has been hanging around for over 2,000 years? You know, we're in America. We got things about 250 years old. But you can pass that around. I'd like to have it back. Well, that's a widow's mite. Jesus is sitting there watching, and it's interesting, that he was watching. He was actually on purpose looking at people's giving. And most of the time when you hear this, it's condemning you for just giving out of your surplus. And truthfully, I think we do need to take a look at our lives right now, and just say, what really is important, what really is going on, what really does count. And whether you and I like to admit it or not, we all got to admit we live in a culture that is constantly bombarding us and affecting us. You cannot associate with something without assimilating it. It's just impossible. Even though you're deliberately trying to keep something, from getting into you, if you live in a wicked world of wrong thinking, that wrong thinking will come into you. You have to have times of flushing it out. You and I live in a world of a lot of toxins. We're breathing them every day. We're eating them every day. Our food's sprayed with insecticides, pesticides. And you got to think about it. It probably won't kill you right away, but it is killing other little creatures. And you take in enough of it, and we're finding out a lot of our autoimmune disease and a lot of our diseases are because we're so full of toxins because we're breathing them every day without even noticing it. Even up here in South Dakota where we think our air is nice and clean and fresh. But did you know our air actually comes from California? Most of the time when the jet streams are right, the jet streams pop right over the Midwest of the Rockies and come down and land right here. And so we get a lot of our stuff from California. I'm just saying there's the same way with life. In your heart and your mind, you're taking in a lot of words, a lot of thoughts, more than you realize, just subtle things. And that's why you need times to come together and worship God. You need times to hear the preaching of the Word. You need times to detox stuff out of your system so that you can get healthy again. But today I just want you to think about this. God is our Father, but actually He's also our mother because we don't, and I'm not going to get into all the theological side of that, but, God is our source. He's our parent. And our God, I want you to He overreacts. He overreacts big time. what do you think? Jesus sitting here, we're looking at this, at the giving, and he says, look at how much money those guys are putting in, disciples. And don't you think the disciples were thinking, boy, there's some rich people putting in some good-sized offerings, and we're pretty tickled about that. And then Jesus makes this statement. He says, but she gave more. Now, he's got a different type of calculator than all of us. Let's go to Luke 16, and we'll see this here. Luke 16, 15. And Jesus has just been talking about, how you can't serve two masters, you can't serve unrighteous mammon. And what that simply means is, and this is this isn't just for the old time 2,000 years ago. This is for us. He just said, I don't know about you, but I love serving. And I literally could be a bond slave to Christ. I could put my ear up to an awl, have an awl poked through it and said, for the rest of my life, I'm going to be a servant of God. That's what we've done. That's what I've done. That's what you've done. And man, it's with great joy that I serve the Lord. But I don't like serving when it's forced on me. I don't like, most of us in America, we don't like the concept of a slave. But Jesus is saying, he says, you can't serve two masters. You're going to serve one or the other. And a lot of times, again, it's just like we feel this guilt and shame. Oh, I'm probably, got too much money, whatever else. What Jesus is really saying here is you can't let money start ruling you and controlling your day and controlling your attitude. And how many people, they'll wake up in the morning and depending on whether they got a check in the mail or a bill in the mail, their whole day is affected. I remember in the lumberyard we talked about once, when mail would come around 9, 10 o'clock, and sometimes when the guys got their mail, all of a sudden their face would just drop. I said, what's going on? I said, I got another bill. I didn't expect this one. And man, it would just go, it was just like, and I just watched them all day long, And they knew the bills come or whatever else, and then they come and go. And then sometimes something good would happen, and it'd be happening. I thought, boy, I do the same thing. But I don't like being controlled by the temporal thing that's going on because, it passes, right? How many things that you worried about 10 years ago are gone and over with, and even if they came to pass or didn't come to pass, they're still gone and over with. And you think, what good did the worry do? What good did the knot in my gut do? And how much harm did it do? Not only did it not do good, but it did harm to you to get up in the morning and be ruled by unrighteous mammon, by just how you're doing financially or how you're doing in the world. And I'm telling you, it's everybody. Well, I tell you, we get up with ulcers, we get pains in our neck, we get tension in our back, we end up with headaches, we end up with migraines, we end up with disease. Why? Because when we're bombarded with constant pressure about how we're doing in this temporal world, we are serving it, and it's not a good God. It's not for you. And I look at our young people and I think, they look like it's almost like our young people, oh, come on, get through your school, get through your, just get through that, get through your high school and then start living. And most ministries, and we'll talk about this more, most ministries just kind of, just let the kids grow up. We go to churches all over the world where the kids just go outside and play. And yet, I can tell you, children are some of the biggest worriers in the world. They have some of the most ungodly pressure on them all the time. And we just sit there and kind of, think, it's so just simple. Just obey your mom and dad, it'll be fine. Well, that's really true. But, the thing is, though they're not talking a lot of times to us adults, they are thinking constantly. And I was thinking constantly, didn't know who to talk to, and worried about my future and worried about what I was going to be. And I'm telling you, I look at children today, especially the ones that are either sitting by themselves quiet, or they're causing all kinds of trouble, or they're causing, or even the ones that are happy-go-lucky, because, so many of the people that have committed suicide in life were the happy-go-lucky ones. Why? Because they were presenting this facade to everybody else, but deep in their hearts, they didn't know who they were and where they're going, what's going on. And that's one reason why our focus has been so strong on children here, because why let them get through 18 years of being bombarded with that and then try to fix them? And even, but here Jesus is saying this, and I got to go on. It says in chapter 14 of Luke, it says, now the Pharisees who were lovers of money were listening to all these things, and they were scoffing him. And by the way, one of the things I just encourage you is don't scoff things, because it reveals Your heart? Where am I? Luke 16. How come that is so capitalized? Yeah, it's verse 14. Luke 16:14. But I tell you, when you scoff something, you actually reveal your own insecurities and your fears. When you scoff at the leadership, and you scoff at the policeman, you scoff at the mayor, you scoff at the president, you scoff at all things, it reveals your heart that you don't know who you are. Because when you know who you are, you don't judge others. Jesus said this, if you judge others, you're going to find yourself doing the same thing. So in all reality, when you judge somebody for being stupid, dumb, over-emotional, under-emotional, whatever, it's just telling you how you see yourself. And it's telling you your future. You will not ever get by with this. It is a law like the law of gravity. Whatever you scoff, you will become, if you're not already that. And that's why sometimes I just got to zip my lip. Because I like to scoff. Verse 15, and he said to them, you are those who justify yourselves in the sight of men, but God knows your hearts, and that which is highly esteemed among men is detestable in the sight of God. This is scripture that just flips the black and white. I think about it probably every day. But whatever men highly esteem, God does not. And what men a lot of times detest, God is saying highly esteemed. And just like Jesus, when he looked at the widow, most people are looking at people's giving and say, oh man, aren't they giving something? You know, can I be real blunt? Because I'm going to anyway. I don't know why I said that. That's just another stupid thing to say. But there are people that I've watched that like to give large sums of money in special times. You know, there'll be a special project, and they'll really jump in and give a bunch of money, and everybody goes, wow, man, wow, you know, that was awesome that they gave. Man, Gates gave $1 billion, you know, and it's like, oh, wow. And I'm telling you, what men highly esteem is not so high in God. And I can tell you as a pastor, the people who are just faithful every Sunday, nobody even knows they're giving. They're just faithful. You come to understand that they are the ones that are actually going to receive the reward. And some people don't like to give faithful every week, every Sunday, every week, every Sunday, every week, every Sunday. They like to save up and then do something extraordinary, and they're doing it. Just what Jesus said here, they're doing it just to be looked at by man. But God, remember this, he is watching. Jesus is watching the giving. And he said that day, the widow, that little mite that's being passed around, was more than all the rest. Have you ever thought about what happened to the widow? Wouldn't you like to hear the rest of the story on the widow? She probably was a mama that had children at home that needed food. And she gave, not out of a surplus. And frankly, folks, there's hardly any of us that aren't giving out of our surplus right now. But she gave out of the living that she had. Let's go to Luke 9. I've got so much tape on my Bible to hold the pages together, now it's starting to stick the pages together. Luke 9, verse 46. And an argument arose among them to which of them might be the greatest. It's so fun to listen to the NBA commenters because after the play, they all talk about, now who's the greatest, who's the best, who's the greatest, who's the best, who, no, I think this guy is. And I'm telling you, there's some great ball players out there right now. I'm just totally amazed at the skill levels of some of the ball players. Anyway, it's nothing new. There's an argument arose who is the greatest. But Jesus, knowing what they were thinking in their heart, took a child. So somewhere there had to be children nearby him. He took a child and stood him by his side. Man, don't you think that kid was feeling good at the time having Jesus recognize him, being part of the illustration? And said to them, whoever receives this child, say receives this child. You know, you can read the Bible all your life, and sometimes when you read it again, you go, wow, I don't know why, but I really never saw that before. Whoever receives this child, receives this child, receives this child. And you got to ask yourself, what does it mean to receive a child? What is that to you? How does that play out to you? What's that mean to you? How do you receive a child? Whoever receives this child in my name receives me. I was thinking as Cody was sharing, here's a big, exciting meeting. Here's powerful preaching. Here's powerful things going on, you know. And yet there's this girl in front of him that said, I want to know Jesus. And you can say, oh, it's probably just because of the excitement. Well, it was just because of the excitement that got me in. Hey, I got in for the excitement. I can swear to God to you right now, I got in. I know why I got into Jesus. I got in because I read in here that said, if you believe in Him, that you will have a life abundant. And I said, I want life abundant. I don't want to be Joe Lunchbox. I don't want to just go to work, I mean, it was a huge thing in me. I wanted life abundant. I wanted to live. I got into the body of Christ. I got into Jesus because I wanted excitement. So once in a while when I get cranked, I know it irritates some of you. But you got to understand, it's just me. I do like excitement. I got it. I want to sometimes say I don't, but I do, and you know it. I like thrills. I'm a risk taker in a lot of areas, to the point of stupidity. And every once in a while, as I'm getting older, I think you got to quit doing that. And I am, and I'm slapping myself up, saying, "Stop it! Stop it!" And what I'm trying to stop is this thing of not being a risk taker. I want to be a risk taker till the day I die. My grandmother had part of her intestines removed. We can't decide which, whatever. But anyway, she had stomach problems, and she was not supposed to eat anything hot, spicy, or popcorn. She ate popcorn all the time. She ate raw onions. Oh, Lord. She'd come up and kiss on you, and man, you hear that onion just smacking her lips, cracking. It's like, oh, Grandma. And but anyway, where was I? She was still in her 90s. In late 90s, she had a daughter that they kind of adopted from Mexico, and she came and made a spicy meal, and my grandmother ate that and said, very interesting. I mean, this thing had to have been smoking her guts. But she was a risk taker, and I want to be a risk taker till the day I die. And I want, and I got into it because I want to be excited. And I think about this, though. There was a lot of emotion, there were a lot of things going on at ATF, but there was a little girl that said, I want to make you Lord of my life. And it's just like Tammy and just like me and just like you. What will be the outcome of that? Only time will tell. And there may be some struggles in between, because after I said yes to Jesus, there was a whole lot of times I was really messed up. I was really messed up. There's people betting on me that I wouldn't make it. You can know Jesus and go into drugs. You can know Jesus and go into alcohol. You can know Jesus and go into a whole anything. You can do that. Well, it's not to be a Christian. Dear God, you're still a Christian. You were born that way. You can't, just because a dog meows doesn't make it a cat. You just screwed up a dog for a while. He'll come back. And I was just a messed up. But Jesus was saying, whoever receives this child receives me. If you really want to receive Jesus, guess what? Receive a child. What does that mean? It means start caring about somebody. Start caring about somebody. You start praying for people, whether they're young or old, they're all children. When I'm 100 years old, I'm going to be a child. Barely started. You pray for people. You receive them into your heart. You make room for them. Then we went and played. They asked me to help out Nathan on coaching the girls on soccer, and it's been a long time since I've been out there. And anyway, got out there, and And I thought, I was trying to think of any reason I could have had a wedding to do in the afternoon. I was thinking, I don't have time for this. And I thought, oh, dear God, just go, John. Have some guts. It's scary to work with kids. Yeah, it is. And now I'm more involved with the school. Pastor Bill's stepping down, and it's scary. But it's incredibly rewarding to receive a child. And when you do, you're receiving Jesus. That's what he said. You want to know Jesus? And let me just go ahead and be me today. A lot of people talk about their great times of prayer and their great times of intercession, their great times of being in a meeting, their great times of everything else, and all that. But if you really want to feel Jesus, you really want to feel his presence, receive a child. Go spend time with a child. Go give yourself to somebody that's not going to reward you with financial blessing or a big, oh, thank you. A lot of kids that we minister to, they don't come up and say, oh, you're the greatest. Really love the word you preached today. No. They grunt and they groan. And they take their socks off in your office. And they play with their toes underneath your table. And then they ask for a Band-Aid. Then they take it off and put it on your table. You go, oh, stop playing with your toes. I'm talking about what it takes to receive a child. But when you do that, you receive Jesus. And you want the presence of the Lord, receive a child. They may be 100 years old, but receive them. Whoever receives this child in my name receives me, and whoever receives me receives him who sent me, and he who is least among you is the one who is great. See this again, we just see this paradigm of God's that says this is whatever men highly esteem and say is great, I'm probably going to be the opposite. The widow gave the great offering. And I don't think God is not opposed to somebody being a great ball player, a great businessman, or whatever else. But he just said it. He said, I look at things different. And by the way, who do you think you ought to go with? Your opinion or his? Who do you think's been around longer than you? Let's go to Luke 22. Brother Luke is getting worked out here today. Luke was a physician. He wrote down a lot of details. He's a high C personality. Luke 22, 24. And there arose a dispute among them as to which one of them was regarded to be the greatest. But wouldn't that have been a bunch to run? If you've never been around Jews very much, you need to understand what Jesus was dealing with. Jews are just different. They really are. I don't despise them. I kind of love them because they are aggressive. They do think they're somebody, and they go out in the world and make things happen. But they can be extremely disgusting. And they are always thinking about being the greatest. And he said to them, the kings of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those who have authority over them are called benefactors. But not so with you, but let him who is the greatest among you become the youngest, and the leader as the servant. For who is greater, the one who reclines at the table or the one that serves? Is it not the one who reclines at the table? But I am among you as the one who serves. And I'm going to throw the next verse in because it's so awesome. And you are those who have stood by me in my trials. Jesus said it again. If you want to be great, become the servant. It's totally contrary to everything that you're going to experience down here, but if you want to be great, be the servant. Let's go to John 12. How many of you can honestly say that your life's been good, it's been wonderful, but you would actually like to have more joy and more peace and just more excitement about life? Is there any hands on this one? It wouldn't hurt you at all to go up a few levels of just enjoying life. Okay. I want to know if I was just preaching to the right crowd here. Because if you don't want to have joy, you don't want to have a life abundant, then this isn't the place to be. John 12, 23. Jesus answered, said, the hour is come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains by itself alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. He who loves his life loses it, and he who hates his life in this world shall keep it to life eternal. If anyone serves me, let him follow me, and where I am, there shall my servant also be. If anyone serves me, the Father will honor him. And then let's flip over to verse 42. Nevertheless, many even of the rulers believed in him. But because of the Pharisees, they were not confessing him, lest they should be put out of the synagogue. For they loved the approval of men rather than the approval of God. There are many pitfalls for you and I to slip into in life, and this is one of the biggest ones. We've really been ministering on this out of John 5. Are you seeking the glory of men or seeking the glory of God? And there's not a one of us that isn't born with a DNA that wants to please man. We want to be honored by man. We want to be recognized by society. We can dress it up a lot of different ways, but it's there. It's in our DNA. It's how we've been, like Jim said, Jim Richard said, we're wired for success, but we're programmed for failure. And one of our programs for failure is that we're looking for the approval of man. It's amazing on the golf course how a guy can be golfing fairly good until you bring some other golfers around him. It is, isn't it? For a lot of the guys, they could be, if they're by themselves and there's no pressure on them, but you start getting people watching them. It's just amazing when somebody's watching you, how you want that approval, and by wanting that approval, you can really mess up. But the wise thing is to stop thinking like everybody else and step into a different place than everybody else is and start looking for the approval of God. To do that, you have to figure out what man is highly esteeming and what God is highly esteeming, and start going with what God highly esteems. And God highly esteemed the widow for giving the mite. And God highly esteems those who will receive a child to themselves. And God highly esteems those who serve others. And here I've found this from the get-go of my life. And have you ever had one of those things that you just know, but you keep forgetting? And you forget enough where you go do the wrong thing again, and then you're not feeling good. And then all of a sudden you say, "Well, why am I not feeling good?" And you say, "Oh, it's because I'm eating that again, or I'm doing this again." And you go, "Man, I've learned this lesson. I mean, it's not like I don't know about this. What makes me forget? I don't know." But I just know it happens to me all the time, so I know I have to have reminders in me to remind me. And here's one of those things that I've seen all my life. My happiest days, no preaching here, just pure talk, honest. My happiest days are the days I'm serving. My happiest moments are when I'm serving. And I'm going to share with you, you know that we've downsized a little bit on staff, and we've increased in production, and I'm going to share with you where the church is going, why we're doing what we're doing, where we plan to go, and etc. But right, and I'm one of the things I'm going to ask is we need some help. We need volunteers to one of the things I just dropped this out because I really need somebody that just loves it or gifted or was willing to get gifted and just helping organize all the volunteers that want to come serve. And so for right now, and by the way, Dan has been helping on vacuuming on Friday, and he's believing for a job, but right now he says, I got time, so he's coming. And he's just, I'm always grateful for everything, but I tell you, I'm just so grateful. And then we had a wedding here at 3, so Alan normally gets the curtain up and gets out. But anyway, Lisa and Deb were doing that, and all the staff's been working hard. And after the wedding, it's Saturday. It's anyway. Austin was here helping do sound. Thank you, Austin. Did a great job. And then Daniel, a few others, and Rachel showed up just to support. Bless your little heart. She just wanted to watch, but she blessed me, and then she hung around, and And Daniel was here, and Cody was here, and I said, hey, guys, since you're here, we want to help tear down the curtain. And it's almost like, are you kidding me? They gave me the guff, but then they all jumped in until they had to go to softball and got it all done in just seconds, and it was just awesome. Need somebody to help organize all that, because I'm not very good at that. I get interrupted all through the day, and I'm not very good at asking, so I'm just going to find somebody better. But can I just say that right now I've been trying to do a little bit of everything. I've been mowing the lawn, mopping the floors and all that. And I realized going and getting the mail, and I realized I've been here 25 years, and there's some things I've never done. Now, when we first started the church, Lisa and I did everything because it was, pretty much it. And I remember back in Vail, on a Sunday morning, I was running the lumberyard, and we started the church in a little Vail school. And I remember, Saturday night usually going down there and mopping up because, the school wasn't lived in or whatever else, so it'd be bugs all over, and, even though nobody's going in and out, it was filthy. And so I remember going sweeping. And then Sunday morning, a lot of times I'd be getting ready, and the basement would flood, and we had to go down. That's where the furnaces were, and they were all rusted out, and I'd have to fire them up, and I'd come out just black as soot. A lot of times I was coming up with soot all over me when the people were coming into the church, and I said, I'll be back as soon as I could and go home and shower and try to get back in time to preach. Some of my greatest moments in life was when I was mopping those silly floors and fixing those furnaces. And I wanted to experience that again for a little while. And I've already been rebuked by a few of you, but also some of the leaders that I communicate with. Jay Louvier pulled me aside and said, you're not going to do this, John. You have to spend your time doing what you do. I said, I know, but for right now, let me enjoy this moment. Because I'm telling you, it is a strange thing that you grab a mop and you start serving people and you start praying for the people as you vacuum the chairs. Isn't it right, Dan? I've seen a joy come on, Dan. There is something that happens when you start doing some of the so-called lowliest jobs just to love people. You're not a super spiritual person. You're not. Sometimes I pray. I seem like I'm praying all the time, but I don't know. I just wanted to give you a little secret. If you want to get happy in life, become a servant. Put the towel on your arm and go serve somebody. And it doesn't have to be a place of prominence. It doesn't have to be in this church. It can be any place. Just go serve somebody. Go grab a child and serve them. Go down to go down and get involved. Get involved. Say, well, I don't want to get involved in Big Brothers, whatever. Just go. There's children everywhere. And don't look like a pervert and don't get thrown in jail. But there are people that you can go to the park and help kids. You can get to know a neighbor so they know who you are. And be a parent. And I'm telling you, it's nothing new, but kids want to have parents. And there's a high percentage of kids that have no parents. They have adults in their home, but no parents. And one of the cries of some of the kids that we minister to is they just want to have a parent. They want to have a dad. If you want to have a great ministry, just go be a dad. Are you going to get paid a lot? No. Are you going to get everybody recognizing you? No. Are you going to be highly esteemed by people? No, they won't even care. But there is a God who overreacts. John 24. We'll finish up here. I don't know if we're coming to the end of times or not. I know you're coming to the end of your time. John 24, there is no John 24. I swore I was not going to do this. All right, turn to Matthew 24. Let me tell you what's in John. John said, Jesus said this in John. He said, because of what's going to come on the earth, men's love is going to wax cold. Because of the pressures that are going to come, people's love is going to grow cold. And whether he comes next week or he comes in 2,000 years, this word has been happening all along. Pressure on people makes their heart grow cold in love. And if you just take an analysis of your family, of people around you, you're going to sooner or later find quite a few people whose love is growing cold. They're more cynical. They're more skeptical. They're more full of criticism. They're less involved. Their love has just grown cold. They don't want to be around kids because kids will mess up on you. Kids will spill things on you. Kids will act like kids. They don't want to be around the hurting because they're tired of hearing problems. You know, I think about this often. A lot of people just don't want to go to church because the church is just full of problems. But then you think about it, people are coming to church because they're at problems and they're looking for answers. But sometimes it's like, I don't want to go there anymore because everybody in there's got problems. And I got enough problems of my own. I don't want to hear about somebody else's. Ever been there, done that? I just don't want to know anymore. I was talking to my dad about some things, and he goes, I'm too old to deal with all the problems. And I said, man, I was thinking about my grandfather living to be 108 and pastoring all those years, and I thought, he heard a lot of problems. And he goes, yeah, he did. And I said, I always remember when I went up to Grandpa in my teenage years, you know, he'd be out raking the lawn, seeming like he's always in the yard. And I walk up, and some of our relatives were having problems, a car accident or something, and you tell Grandpa, and he had this little, didn't even do it. He'd do that little thing, and he'd go, that's too bad. That's sad. And I tell you, as a 16-year-old boy that was getting prepared for the ministry, I was thinking, well, that's a real cop-out. I did. I thought evil of my grandfather. I thought, man, you're getting old. Just because you're 100 doesn't mean you don't have to care a little bit more than that. I did. That sounds horrible now, doesn't it? But then I just finished that little story. I just thought, my grandfather, I think, had a lot more wisdom than I knew. That you can't go fix everybody. Being in the ministry doesn't mean you can go fix everybody. If there's any lesson you got to learn in the ministry is that you can't fix anybody. And the whole world will tell you, you can. Go, pastor, you can do it. Go talk to my wife. She'll listen to you. But the wives are really good. Pastor, my husband, he won't listen to nobody but you. Go tell him how wrong he is and what he sucks. No, I mean, it's just like, and I'm thinking, and she's telling me right in front of him. And I'm thinking, you're making this job that's impossible anyway even more difficult if you just be quiet. I might have a shot at this. But I've learned I can't fix anybody. But just on the other side, we still need each other. We still need each other. I know there's a ton of people not going to church anymore all over the world. They just don't want to go. They're burned. They're bad. You know, I just talked to a guy who wanted me. I did the wedding yesterday, and somebody came up and said, would you marry us? And I said, where are you from? Williamson, North Dakota. I said, why do you want me? I said, well, we're going to get married in the Black Hills, but we know a lot of pastors, but, and then went on to tell the pain that's in their life from church. But I was thinking about my mother today. My mother was one who would overreact. My mother, if she took in a bum lamb, she fed it to death. Yeah, I mean, we had a real struggle with Mom. If there were some stray cats, she'd start feeding them, but she didn't just feed them enough to live, she fed them enough to blow up. And she did the same thing with us. Didn't she, Marty? We didn't know that there were people who baked cookies and then counted them. I shouldn't say this, but it's my brother-in-law. But his mom would make cupcakes, put them in and if you took a cupcake out without being offered it, she counted, she found out, and she went and found out who took the cupcake. My mom was not very good at that at all. She'd bake a whole batch of cookies, put them in the jar, and by 9 o'clock they were gone, and she'd come in, oh, where did all those cookies go? I mean, I don't know how much we snarfed down. Man, we had to snarf. How were we skinny? I'm still trying to do that. It's not working anymore. But my mama would say, where did they all go? And then she'd say, well, I better make some more. And she'd go make more. It's a bonanza deal. I'm still fighting it. We'd get up in the morning and she'd say, what do you want for breakfast? I said, I'll take French toast. My brother said, I'll take pancakes. Dad said, I'll take 2 eggs over easy with toast and hash brown. She was a short order cook. I was stunned the first time I went in somebody's home and they said, I said, well, could I have this for breakfast or whatever else? They said, this is what you get. That's it. And it was just a dry cereal on the table, that was just it. And they said, I'm no short order cook. I thought, aren't you a mother? Don't all mothers? My mom served us kids. My mom served us. My mom took the lowliest place in the home, and I didn't know it till I was older. I thought that's what all moms did. I was stunned to go to my friend's house and find out that moms are business people who don't have time for their children. My mom never got very many accolades in life. My mom wasn't very often stuck on a stage and praised. My dad's been a dominant guy, gets a lot of glory. My mom got very little. And in my 30s, I got pretty upset with it, and I said, God, this is not right. And I don't know why, but something was burning in me for months, and I said, this is not right, this is not right. And my Lord finally got a hold of me one day. He said, son, can you let this go about your mother? Because I was feeling like an unworthy son by not honoring her like I should have. And I didn't even know how to, because she'd been a servant all her life. I didn't know what to do to bless my mom. I tried to give her things, and she kept one of my gifts I gave her when I was 16, two little purple balls stuck on each other with some eyes on it. It was supposed to be something, I don't know, but she liked purple, I liked purple, I thought she'd like them. She kept them on the shelf till the day she died. They were ugly. They were stupid and silly. I didn't know how to honor my mom. And I was wrestling with God on it, and he finally told me, he said, can you let it go? I said, how? Why? He said, because when you get up here and see the reward that your mother has, you will not feel sorry for her time on earth. Because what I highly esteem, men don't. And what men highly esteem, I don't. And he said, your mom. And he gave me a little glimpse of her reward. And from that day forth, I was at peace. I was extremely at peace. Every time I saw how my mom served and didn't get things her way, didn't get to hardly make, she just was a servant all her life. And I think sometimes it bothered her. I know it did. It bothers you, don't it, once in a while when nobody seems to want to serve you? But I would see that, and I'd just smile because my father was telling me, wait till you see my overreaction on your mom's servanthood. Because God overreacts. Jesus said to his disciples, he said, you're going to come and you're going to inherit. If you serve me, you're going to come and inherit a kingdom, just like I inherited a kingdom. And God's going to reward. My final thought is this on Mother's Day. We really don't need more great heroes. We really don't need more Billy Grahams or Joel Johnsons or Tammy Iversons or John Williamsons. You may get up and think that we really do need some great leaders in the body of Christ, as far as that people out there on TV like Andrew and everything else, but we don't. What we need is great leaders who are servants, who receive children, who do the menial things unto the Lord. Because as hard as you and I will try, it's so difficult for us to see things the way God sees them. But His way is right. The widow gave more. What do you think that widow's doing today? I'm not so sure she didn't develop the west side of Jerusalem in her day. Because God rewards even down here on earth, you know. But she definitely is being rewarded now. I want that reward, don't you? I want it in all eternity, but you know what? I also want the joy, and I won't go into it, but if you ever get a chance to go to the Philippines and listen to Maya teach, or get to watch what they do in the Bible school, the one thing they take students from all over Vietnam and Burma and Philippines, and one thing that every student will tell you at the end, it about drives them crazy, they about go nuts being in that school, but when they get done, this is the one thing they all say, when I learned to serve, I learned to be happy. There's a gal from Vietnam, and she was the most miserable girl you ever saw in your life when we went there. She was tough to be around. They almost sent her home. And it took about 6-7 months until finally she understood by doing, not by teaching, but by doing. They made her clean, they made her cook, they made her do, and it's not a clean place, and it's not a nice place. And when she finally yielded and became a servant, she got happy. And every one of them always testifies that way. You know something? And it's no different for you and I. If you want to be happy in this lifetime, start being a servant and stop thinking about how you can have everything you want. I'm just telling you if you want to be happy. Now, if you want to just be a typical person that wants to look like a sharp person to everybody else and drive the fanciest stuff and do all that, then go ahead and go for that. But I'm just telling you, most people I meet aren't happy. The servant's happy. And I need some help, or, you know, well, I don't know if I need any help. Jesus would like to have you. I was thinking about it the other day, and this is what he said to me. Have you ever had moments when you're just tired? Grumpy? Say things you shouldn't say? You don't get to hear most of those that come out of my mouth. My wife does. Pray for her. But I was grumpy. And my father said this. He said, so you're tired of taking care of my family? You're going to pass on taking care of my family? I'm sorry, but I begin to weep even now. There's people all over the planet cursing the body of Christ, cursing the church. There's whole groups that are just, their whole focus is to say how stupid the church is, how destructive it is, and they're all right. They're all telling the truth. But God says, this is my family. And He said, blessed is the man and woman when I come back that I find them taking care of my family. Because I'm going to overreact. I'm going to overreact. I am looking for those who will take care of my children. Why I can't be there on earth. And blessed. And when God says blessed, you and I will say, bless you. And it's powerful, but a lot of times it's just like, can you send cash instead of blessings? People send cards. They're paying $5 on the card. Personally, I'd rather have the $5. I don't know. I'm a practical guy. Cards don't impress me. Don't look at me like I'm just a bad person right now. I'm just telling you the truth. We can say blessed and it doesn't mean much, but when God says, blessed are those whom I find taking care of my family, of the little children, no matter what age, that nobody is excited about. Nobody's putting it in the newspaper. Nobody's putting it on the TV. Nobody's waving banners on it. Nobody's dancing. Just they take care of a little child, and they served them. He said, blessed is that person. And I'm telling you, he's going to I'm betting my life on it that he's going to overreact. I am betting my life on it that he's going to overreact. And I pray that you are too, laying your life down for others until the day you breathe your last, betting on the truth that God's going to overreact for anybody that takes care and loves his children. Heavenly Father, I thank you for the opportunity to have such a great mother that I did and didn't even recognize it most of my life. But more importantly, I want to worship you for Jesus, who came to this earth, laid his life down, popped into a human body with all its restrictions and confinements, put a towel on his arm, and went to washing feet the whole time he was here. And then instructed us and said, if you want to be great, boys, you want to be awesome, you want to have a kingdom, you want to sit on thrones, pick up a towel, become the least, become the servant, and I will do the same thing that my Father did to me. And my Father gave me everything he had. He gave me the kingdom. He gave me judgment. He gave me the throne. He gave me everything. And I will do the same as my dad to you that he did to me. I will overreact and I will give you the kingdom. And I will give you a throne. If I find you taking care of my family when I'm not there. Jesus, may we hear what the Spirit of God is saying to us today. I pray. Amen. Happy Mother's Day.